Live.
Hello, welcome to Adventures in Angular, the podcast where we keep you updated on all things Angular related. This show is produced by two companies, Top End Devs and Envoy. Top End Devs is where we create top end devs to get top end pay and recognition while working on interesting problems and making meaningful community contributions. And Envoy, which provides remote design and software development services on a performance basis, so clients only pay for delivered tasks. In today's episode, we will talk about the Angular Renaissance. This is how they're mentioning this new movement. So, yeah, Angular was recently rebranded, and we also got a new version, Angular version 17. So we have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to introduce you all on what is new, just taking it from the top. And yeah, so my name is Lucas Paganini. I am the CEO of Envoy and your host in the podcast. Joining me in today's episode is Charles Maxwood.
Hey, folks, it's been a little bit.
Yeah, and Subrat Mishra.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Okay, so let's get into it. So, Subrat, let's talk about the rebrand. What do you think about the new Angular logo?
Yeah, I think when I saw the logo first, I thought like someone just created. I got it in my LinkedIn that Angular is recreated. I thought someone just cut it from the side and just trying it to animate it as a some gradient and something. But I thought, okay, now Angular is also coming up with new document side, and which looks pretty cool. Like if you go, they have an Apple style branding, and then so scrolling effect. And now it's, I think Angular going is a good way of catching the market again. Hope like with all these changes, all this optimization with Angular 17, let's hope for the best. And I like the old one as well, little more, but the new one is also quite good.
The old branding, you mean?
Old old logo, old Angular
Yeah.
logo. It's a simple material design. Now it's a shiny logo, but yeah.
I thought my opinion would be unpopular. I like the old logo a lot better than the new one. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I am still a bit divided. The new logo looks really cool, but I just feel like it looks like a lot of other startup logos that are trying to look cool. And the old logo had this classic look to it. It
Uh-huh.
was just it was just classic, the red shield with an A. But at the same time, I completely agree that they needed a rebrand. And
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna lie, this week, I think it was Monday, I opened up LinkedIn and I saw um, those pools on LinkedIn, and somebody was making this question. If you were to start a new project right now, it's a personal project, you have full autonomy over the technical decisions. What would you use for the framework in the front end? And the options were nothing, it was React, and the third option was Angular JS. And I was like, dude, really? It's
Oh,
2023. Like people
shots
are,
fired.
yeah, it's like people are still like not getting that Angular and Angular JS are completely different things. So even though it sounds like we should be over this problem by now, I actually think this rebranding and distancing ourselves from all that can make people identify Angular as if it were Angular JS, I think it's for the best. So yeah, I'm on board with the
Yeah.
change. But yeah.
That the idea of doing a rebrand is different from having a logo that looks like a second year art student made it. That's I'm just saying.
Oh, shots fired. No.
I really don't like it, but not my decision. So
It's like someone just slept and opened. Ah, this is fine. Cut it, cut it, cut it here, and this is the logo.
right. How much
No,
can I
I
do in 5 minutes? Done. Gradients, awesome.
yeah, but what one thing I was searching about posting it to my channel. I was trying to download the logo, but it's not. It's a gradient. It's a SVG now. So Either
Y
you can, like, if you have an animated logo, you have to upload the SVG. But that's just a thing though. But yeah, rebranding is
yeah.
required, and we should
Yeah, an
hope that
SVG you
Angular will.
can open in Photoshop or something and let
Yeah,
you
yeah,
work.
and do that. Yeah.
You can get away with that. That's not a major issue for me.
You know.
So
Okay.
what's new besides the colors?
Yeah, let's get into the other stuff. Let's see if anything pleases you, Chuck. Okay,
I
so
don't have any opinions.
let's get into the new docs. So we are not gonna rely on Angular.io anymore. We have a new website with a new domain, and now everything is over Angular.dev. So a couple of pros and cons, just so that we can summarize. Um, it seems that now we have interactive tutorials, which is cool. And they said that they revised the entire thing. I'm saying those things in that way instead of giving certainty, just because I myself haven't taken the time to actually read through the entire new documentation. I just skimmed through the website and it looks good.
It
Um,
looks really good.
yeah, it looks better than the old website. And what I really like is that when they were announcing this new website, they said that they revisited the entire documentation to make it way easier for people to get started on Angular. And they also made sure that every lesson was contained in itself. So, for example, if you want to learn just how dependency injection works, you can read only the lesson about dependency injection. You don't need to read anything that came before. So they made it in a way in which it requires minimum amount of context from the lessons that are in other sections. So that's really good for people that just want to like a quick handbook to consult how a particular part of the framework works. I think that's a major leap forward. I really, really, really like that. And one cons is that right now this new website is still in beta and it doesn't have all the features that the other website had. For example, translations. There are no other languages, everything is just in English, and there's no way for people to go to GitHub and add other languages to it.
Oh,
In their defense, in the old website, it was also not super easy. Like people would have to clone the website repository to create versions in other languages. So it wasn't super easy. And Minko said that they are trying to make it easier this time. So I'm thinking that they're going to do everything in the same repository and
mhm.
just kind of have the different languages sitting up there as markdown files, probably. That would be much better, but unfortunately, we don't have support for that yet. And I totally understand. Like they're just releasing the website; they don't want to make it too rigid because like structural decisions like this make it harder for you to make changes to the website later
Mhm.
on. But at the same time, I'm not sure if I agree just because like they just released it. So everybody's excited. So I feel like this would they have enough momentum that asking for people to create translations would probably work really well right now just because everybody's talking about it. So that would be a good moment for them to ask people to create translations, but nobody can do that yet. So yeah, that's one cons, but everything else that I've seen so far are just pros.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
one thing I liked a lot is they have a playground option, and in that, if you go to the contour flow, and it shows that how far Angular came. Now within only one file you can host your application, like only main.ts, and that's all. So now Angular is going in a, like, a modularized way, or you can say like how minimalistic way. Now new people coming to Angular, they don't have to learn about modules, a lot of things. They can just start building it, and on in process, they will learn a lot of things.
Yeah, I think they're using Stack Blitz for that, aren't they? But, it's pretty slick. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's building and injecting dependencies for like polyfills and stuff. But yeah, I really like that piece
And
because
here you
and like
can,
you said, it's all simplified too.
yep. And here we can write it everything, build your application, then download it, then push
Mhm.
it. So that option is also there. So
Yep.
you always didn't need not have to start from the scratch.
Yep. I also like that there's a key command for search.
Hmm.
Um, and then it does dark mode. My computer's on dark mode, so it went to dark mode automatically. But I'm starting to like websites in light mode better, even though I like my computer in dark mode. Don't ask me why. But it just a lot of that makes it a lot simpler. Just the command K for search, and then any other key commands that you expect to work in other systems tend to work here, and so that is pretty approachable. To your point, Lucas, with the translations, yeah, every translation is a bit of work. I was going to joke and say they should just put it in Google Translate, right? It's
Yeah.
Google, right? But the reality is yeah, you want it to be correct, and Google
Hmm.
Translate isn't always. So, um, yeah, what would be interesting too is if they got bona fide translations going, and then they could maintain their momentum by saying, "Hey, now we have a French version," right? Just let everybody know. Hey, we've got the French version. Now we got the Spanish version. Now we've got the Japanese version. Now you're right. Because then every community is going to be going, "Yay, you got to us." So,
That's a good point. Yes. So they can still do that.
yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. And well, in terms of the website itself, before we actually get into Angular version 17, another thing that I also liked is that at the bottom of the side menu, they also added a section for, well, there are a lot of new sections, a lot of new lessons, but there's this new section called extended ecosystem. And I thought that was so smart because there's more to the extended native ecosystem of Angular than just Angular material. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of people think they're like, oh, there's Angular material, and everything else is just third party. So now they are adding all those other extended libraries to this Angular.dev documentation, which makes it really clear that they are supported by Google itself. So we have Angular Fire, which is to work with Firebase. We also have one for Google Maps, another for Google Pay, the YouTube player. And then we have the traditional ones like the Angular CDK and Angular Material, as well as some other stuff for service workers and PWAs. So I really like that. It's a nice call to action for people to go beyond what's just on the core Angular docs and learn more about those other things that they might want to use in their applications too.
Right.
I think one thing I would like to maybe in some future, some maybe Angular or React, they will also integrate some AI with it, and people will go to the doc and say, "I need this application," and then they'll prepare application and give it to them.
That reminds me of when I first got started freelancing. So I was doing Ruby on Rails, and Twitter when it came out was written in Ruby on Rails. They've moved a lot of their stack off into other pieces depending on anyway. So I would get emails from people that said, "Hey, can you write me a script that will be a Twitter app?"
Oh man, I love talking to people that want to build a tech business and have no idea how it is to code. They're like,
Well, the other thing that gets me though is it's like, look, is there any other part of business anywhere where if I could crank you out a Twitter clone in 2 days, that it would be worth anything? Because anybody wanting to compete with you can do the exact same thing, right? The profitable businesses are the ones that are out there. Yeah, they make it easy for you to do a thing, but it's not trivial to copy what they did.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, okay. So in terms of the last new thing is a new version of Angular. So we have Angular version 17 now, And that was actually released today. So the website was released Monday, but Angular 17 was released today, a few hours ago. But we already know what's in it because they said in the launch of the new brand Monday. And let's go over what's new. So first, we have much a much more improved build performance because now ES Build and Vite are no longer just experimental; they are actually stable
Oh,
bundlers.
cool.
Yeah, and if you replace Webpack with ES Build or Vite, you're gonna get I don't even know it by head, but it's like maybe 90% faster. It's like
Yeah.
something egregious
Uh-huh.
like that. It's like much, much, much faster.
I think it's funny because I've heard some people bagging on Webpack, now that we have an ES Builder of Eat. But the reality is that Webpack kind of opened the gate to this whole thing. So you have to give them a ton of credit and then recognize that, yeah, we want faster builds. And so we're going to use a different tool now because there are better tools. But yeah, props to the Webpack folks for solving some of these problems early.
Hmm.
Definitely, definitely. As you said, they opened up the gates. And the only reason why other competitors can differentiate themselves just because they are faster is because Webpack already differentiated itself by having
Mhm.
all the features. So
Right.
everybody else can just say we have the features and we are
And the
faster.
plugins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's really nice that we have that. This is definitely gonna improve the overall developer experience, which by the way, I was already feeling that it was much better. I was getting like less than 1 second um, hot reload when
Oh,
developing on the
wow.
latest versions of Angular. So now that we have this other build modules, I'm guessing that this will be even less noticeable. So
Yeah,
it's
some
already crazy
milliseconds. Yeah.
fast. Exactly. Exactly. I
And
think this
also
is
like,
gonna be. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying that with this, they have also like have a 87% rendering, 67% client side rendering. So after you build also, when you're rendering with some Angular Universal or something, that is also quite fast now. Uh,
Yeah.
so we're
I
going in a good
feel
direction.
I feel like the most noticeable performance improvement now it's gonna be in continuous integration because if you're just developing locally, I don't feel like the speed right now is a problem. But when you actually send your code and you open your PR and then you have to wait for your continuous integration system to build and run all the checks and tests,
Hmm.
then that still takes up a while. If you have like at Envoy, we generally use NX to organize
Hmm.
all of our Angular code bases, and then we can break it into smaller pieces, and we can use caching for all the individual pieces. So when we send something to CI, it builds up much faster because it's only building smaller parts of the application instead of having to rebuild the entire thing all the time. But still, it's still not blazingly fast. Like I would say it takes a minute and a half to 2 minutes on average for our Angular libraries to build on continuous
Hmm.
integration, even with part of them being cached. So if there's no cache, I would say that it takes like 2 minutes to two and a half on average. So I really like the idea of speeding things up on CI. I think it's gonna give us a much faster feedback loop. Because sometimes, I gotta be honest, sometimes I send code to CI and I go make some coffee. you know?
It's like that XKCD where they're fencing and the boss walks by like, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, it's the build."
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I think
And
now
what
it's
else?
pretty good. Yeah, like I think y- we just to have a look on like how Angular is growing. Be- I think before Angular 9 or something till Angular 9, people are saying Angular build is we have very high amount of initial bundle size and that is reduced. Then Ivy came, then slowly standalone everything. Now with Angular 17, we have control flow. Now, so now Angular is also making how flexible you want to write your code. It's in your way how you can divide your code to a different function and use them as you like it. It's I think it's removing the rigidity from Angular and giving more flexibility to the developer. And that's a very good way which Angular is going. I think 17 is the might be a very big release in terms of Angular ecosystem.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. So, built-in control flow. It's not really a new feature itself, but it's a way for you to clean up your code a lot, and it's
Yeah.
also going to make it much more easier for beginners to get into Angular. So now you don't need, and let me be clear, it's not that you can't. You can still use ngIf, ng4,
Mm.
ng-switch, but you don't need to use them because right now we have built-in functionalities for these. So you have a built-in at if statement. You also have else if and else already built into the Angular template uh, language. So you don't need to import the common module and use ngIf, ng4, ng-switch. You can get rid of those unnecessary elements or ng containers that you are using just to provide control flow, and they are also faster. So they are also faster. But I think the main benefit is not really the speed, is really the syntax. It's just much clearer to read and understand um, how the component is being rendered and in which steps things are being rendered. And now, what is actually new, not just like a syntactic change, but an actual new feature, is deferrable views. And it
Yeah.
goes on top of the new built-in control flow. So it's using the same syntax as if, for, and switch statements, but it's a different thing. Like we don't have a way like an ng deferrable view. Like there's no that right now on Angular 16. But we do have this at defer uh, command right now, which is going to allow you to tell your template that parts of it should only be rendered after a given asynchronous condition happens. And this asynchronous condition can be one of the presets that they have, like once the component is on the viewport, once it loads, like you have a bunch of triggers, but you can also have your custom triggers. So you can say when this property is equal to true, or when this array is not empty. You can have things like that to indicate that the request that you made to the backend was successful, the data was retrieved, and now you're ready to show it. So you can put the parts of your component that depend on this data already being available inside a defer condition. And then you can give it the condition of when that part of the deferrable view is supposed to be rendered, and is going to be rendered when that happens. And it also has a lot of other utilities, right? So, Brett, like you now have a very declarative way of of um, of saying like what should be showed to the user when the data is being loaded. Or you can even add, what's it called, like that template that you show when you don't have data but it feels like you have the components there. I forgot the name of it. Placeholders.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you can also show these placeholder components, and it's so declarative. It's really really easy to understand what's going on. You even have a section to tell what happens if there's an error. So that sounds really promising. I really liked this defer statement.
Yeah, I think by using of viewport and by differential loading, by default loading, it also like I think going in a way of which Angular has in future in mind, that change detection will work as a view basis, like currently it's working as a component basis. So on your component, if your component is flagged, it will be registered for change detection, then the whole flow is run. Then now you can convert that to, so in future what will happen, they will convert each suppose a for loop or a if statement to a view, and that view only be re-render, not the whole component. So I think this is the new way, the starting way, and that is only possible with standalone based component and with signals and everything. So I think in few lot of things yet to come in 18, 19. So yeah.
Yeah. And everything else, I think we can put it in a box of developer experience.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna just list some of the other things that we have, but honestly, there's just so much here that we're probably gonna have to do other episodes to get
Yeah.
deeper into it and actually show examples and be focused on each of them. But just so that we actually have a complete podcast where we list all the new things for you. The other things that we have are like improvements to server side rendering. So there are performance improvements to server side render, and there are also like quality of life improvements. For example, right now, before Angular 17, if you wanted to start a code base from scratch and add Angular Universal to it, you needed to do just that. You needed to start the code base and then add Angular Universal. There was no way for you to just already start with Angular Universal setup. It wasn't super hard to set up Angular Universal, but it was that extra step, right? And now you can have that already in the CLI. So you can start a new project and use dash dash SSR, and it's going to already start with Angular Universal. Also, they renamed it. So it's no longer called Angular Universal, it's called Angular SSR, which is
That
much
makes sense.
more, yeah, it's much easier to understand. Yeah. And I like the idea of Angular Universal because when it originally came up, the idea was to have Angular running in all sorts of environments. So it wasn't like just for server side
Mhm.
rendering, it was supposed to provide all the necessary structure to make Angular run in any environment that you want. So, which is why it was called Universal. But the truth is, we over time we really only used it to do server side rendering, so it just makes sense to call it server side rendering. And if you're going to support other platforms, you can have modules or packages that have the names of that of those platforms specifically. So for example, if Angular ever releases a native way to build hybrid apps. I know that we already have Ionic, but if Angular decides to release a native version, instead of using Universal and putting all those platforms into the scope of Universal, they can have like an at Angular slash mobile, for example,
Mhm.
which is also going to be much easier to understand. So I like this movement of calling it Angular SSR. Then we also had some other improvements to debugging. So now we have dependency injection debugging in DevTools. So the Angular DevTools now has a dedicated page for dependency injection, and you can understand where your instance is coming from, and also if you were not able to if Angular wasn't able to provide an instance of what you wanted, like how it traversed up to the root node and all the steps that it went to get there, so you can see if the module that you're providing this dependency is not in this hierarchical tree, and you can understand why you're not able to inject the dependency that you want to inject. So that also helps a ton. And yeah, like a lot of other quality improvement. One that I really liked, but I want Subrat's opinion on this one. So let's see. Subrat, have you taken a look into the, how do they call it? I think it's transform, input value transforms. So it's basically like you have, you know, when you have a button and you want to have like this disabled parameter, but you don't want people to actually have to set up a value to it. It's like just the mere presence of the disabled attribute should already tell the component that it is disabled. But the thing is, for you to support that that syntax, we needed to convert the is existence of this attribute into a boolean to indicate if disabled was true or false, and that added up other boilerplate to the code base, and now we can do all of that with a single natively supported way to transform the input. But I wanted your opinion, Subret. Like, do you think the way they did it is, yeah, I'm just wondering about the signature of the function itself and the way in which we build those transformers. Have you had a chance to take a look at that?
I have used that though in Angular 16. If you pass a transform attribute to a input and pass that to the corresponding component, and there you can just put it uh, with. But yeah, it's a required actually how it people should do it, because I saw a lot of sites they just put it disable and you go and change remove that part and it re-enables it and you can go and pass forward. So the first thing is should not do that. Like you should not have an option to have a user can edit in the HTML and just pass it disable. Second way is, yeah, I think the input way is good in terms of passing the state from parent to child and all. I think, but I guess it's not on the 17, right? So it started with the 16, I guess, or this came with 17 because I remember
Uh,
using it 16.
it actually came, like, officially came on version 17.
Okay, maybe
I
experimentation 116 here.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
maybe that was it. I really only saw it on Angular 17, so I
Hmm.
don't think we had that on 16. What we did had on 16 was Angular signals, which now, if I recall correctly, they are officially stable,
Hmm.
right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I've got to take off. If you guys want to keep talking, and Lucas, if you have the end stream button in the top right corner, you can keep going. Otherwise, I've got to wrap us up.
Okay, we can keep going. I have it.
Okay, you have it. All right. Well, this was fun. Really cool. Looking forward to good new things to come. Sorry, folks, I got to bail. My kids have my daughter made the honor roll, and so they're having the thing at the school. So, anyway, go ahead and keep talking, and we'll catch y'all later.
Okay. Thanks for joining.
Thanks. See. Yeah, I guess about the transform, I guess if I remember, transform of to boolean or transform, like now you can pass. It will check your input type on the suppose you are passing a string and somehow you are passing a number to the input. That also transfer will help that, okay, it's a boolean, it's not a number. I think earlier it was not, you will get it only on runtime, not on compile time. That also
Hmm.
another, but I think it's came with 16. Maybe I'm wrong with, I have used experimental, but I have used it 16.
Okay. Okay. Um, what else, Brett? Do you think there's anything here that, because we're definitely going to have to do other episodes getting deeper
Yeah,
into how to
we have to
actually
use
use.
it like a hands-on, develop some change some app with Angular 17 and try to do it. I think NGRX also maybe release with new 17. Maybe they have already released, or or maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow they will release. They're super quick with the version. So how it integrate with them and all the things. There are a lot of new things to do. And as every 6 months we are getting new versions. So this is maybe for you guys who is watching us or listening to us, like it's just a new version. It doesn't think like, okay, every 6 months I have to learn new things. It's not like, it's just an addition of a slight small approach. So if you just keep listening to podcast or start doing a project yourself, like slowly you will learn everything. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself that I have to put through and read the docs just to know what all in Angular 17. So focus on your product and you'll learn the technology as a side effect.
Definitely, definitely. I think that was a beautiful disclaimer for us to start wrapping things up is like, don't get afraid of it. Is not a new framework.
Yeah.
It's still Angular, but
A new logo though, like.
yeah, it's a new logo. But there are not too many major changes. The thing is, it's been a while that Angular itself is new, right?
Mhm.
Ever since Angular 13, 14, 15, it already had this feeling that it was a much more modern framework. Somehow there was like this big leap from versions. Like when we were upgrading from version like 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 to 11, it didn't felt like we had many like big changes that would change the way in which we actually code
Yeah.
Angular. There were a lot of improvements, definitely, but it didn't felt like it was really catching up with the other stuff that was appearing in other frameworks.
Hmm.
But since Angular 13, we really started to get momentum.
Yeah.
So the fact that they rebranded it now doesn't mean that Angular 17 is like a new thing. But I would say that ever since Angular 13, it just feels like a new framework. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Like if you are on Angular 8 and want to upgrade to Angular 17, then you might spend some time and go through everything and try to check like if it's not breaking something. But if you are on Angular 14, 15, or 16, I don't think it will break anything. You just need to run ng update and it will work.
definitely, definitely, it's gonna be a breeze. And yeah, like going to the promotions, I'm actually gonna use this as a segue
Hmm.
because if you are in the situation and you need to upgrade your code base, then feel free to reach out at unvoid.com. It's unvoid.com because we definitely can help you out with that.
Yeah.
And we work on a performance basis. So that means that you're only going to pay for our work when we actually deliver the work to you. So there's no risk. You're not going to pay per hour, for example. Oh, if we take longer than we anticipated, that's our problem. That's not the client's problem. So the client is always in a much safer position when they're working with us. So if you're at all interested in either outsourcing a project or augmenting your staff, you can check out unvoid.com. We're currently available for new projects, but I'm not sure for how long we're going to stay that way because we really have a maximum of projects in which we do concurrently because we understood that if we do more than that, it starts affecting our output and we don't want that. We want to be known as a company that delivers outstanding quality and not a company that has like thousands of clients. So yeah, if you're interested in that, go check out unvoid.com and we can schedule a meeting. How about you, Subrat? What would you like to promote?
Yeah, I think nowadays I have little bit pause. It's not to. I think it's on the blame is on me though. Like a little pause by from posting some videos. Sorry guys for that. And I think nowadays I need to post a very long video or maybe the shorts, and that's what trending right now. YouTube is not promoting, and after, and I guess after ChatGPT, people are searching less on programming stuff, so they are getting the answer from ChatGPT. Yeah, we saw a decline in Stack Overflow traffic. We saw a decline in Google search, or maybe searching to particular things. But yeah, but it's how it is. So I will try to. I think I'll try to have like the first podcast is with you. I'll try to some add some more podcasts and try to build with it. And I'm planning to schedule them and launch them. So yeah, if you would like to go to my channel name is Fun of Heuristic. There we have plenty of videos on Angular, lot of stuff like Angular PWA service worker, working with location, and lot of things. So you just go and check that, and please give the comment if you like it, if you don't like it. scroll me, say that I don't like it, so I'll try to make it better. But please check it.
Yeah, I sent a link to your YouTube channel here on the comment section.
Comment. Yeah.
And we gotta get used to that, right? It's weird having a comment section. I wasn't used to that when we
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
just recording the podcast. But now that everything is live, it's nice to have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also putting Envoy's website there, so if anyone wants to check out. But yeah, again, just to reiterate, like really, guys, if you like the content that we produce here, you're definitely going to like Subret's channel. His content is really good, and there's just so much that we can do with a podcast, because even though we have this video version on YouTube right now, we always try to be mindful of all of you that are just on audio, so we try to avoid really showing code and depending on visual things to get our message across. But Subret has none of those limitations in his YouTube channel, so it's much easier for him to explain some of the concepts that might be harder for us to do here, just because we are in an audio only format. So highly recommend check out his content, and it's definitely not just for beginners. He has a ton of
Yeah.
very advanced stuff. He has things that I check out eventually and I learn new things. And like, I'm not trying to say that that I'm a complete expert in everything, but I would say that I'm pretty advanced. But still, there are a lot of things that I learned from Subret, so I highly recommend.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the nice words.
No problem. It's easy to recommend when the content is good. All right, let's start wrapping things up.
Yep.
So thank you everyone for sticking with us. We really appreciate all of you with us for so long. We are approaching the episode number 400. Like, holy
You.
shit. Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
much content. So much
Yeah. I
content.
think I joined around 200 or 300. I joined the podcast around 300, I guess. So I was a guest, and then I joined the podcast. So I think it's a long journey. I think that it's all credit go to Chuck's, like he's doing it for maybe 12 years. He's a podcast king. Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone should learn something from him. You can discuss with him like day in and day out. Like just discuss with him about podcast, and he will be.
definitely, definitely. But at the same time, like I I'm a super fan of Chuck's commitment to this, because it
Yep.
is a very big effort to keep this up for that long. But also a big shout out to everyone that actually listens to us, because we wouldn't really be here if there wasn't an audience. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, and consider this an early thank you as we approach episode 400.
Hmm.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.
See you guys. Bye bye.